Hi, everybody. This is Rachel Z, and welcome to the Rachel Z Project. This is the long-awaited episode number 1, where I'm going to talk about why exactly I said goodbye to competing in fitness. And this is a great episode 1 as well, because I think it does a good job of introducing this vlog at the same time. This is something that I have been putting off for a really long time. So I'm really happy to just get this going and put this out there, even though it will not be perfect. So without further ado, let's get started. Rising up like phoenixes. As with all goodbyes, there's usually some sort of form of hello. I found fitness over a decade ago when I was still in university at the University of Manitoba, located in good old Winterpeg, Manitoba. My gym has a gym called the Gritty Grotto, which was located in the basement of the Max Bell Center. Wow, it sounds crazy saying that right now because it's been over a decade, much more than a decade since I've even mentioned that. It actually no longer exists, and I found this sweet little video just to show how ghetto this gym is. I'm also sure that we all got exposed to some form of asbestos, but I digress. I don't know if, let's see, I'm going to share my screen. See here, it says good. I don't know what the gym is actually called. Hi. Where's the sound?
What's up?
I'm filming my vlog.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. You can edit it. I'm trying to get the video to work.
I got one called Slurricane, and I got you some Blue Dream.
You got me Blue
I
Dream?
got you some Blue Dream.
Yay! I'm gonna go keep that in this little episode. Look at my cute little share in the corner.
Oh, it looks good with the ring lights.
Yeah, I know. I have a cute little setup.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to my video. For my husband interrupted. This is the gym I used to work out at, if you want to see.
I remember the grotto. We went.
Did we go?
You took me once.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm just recounting.
I remember it almost looked like you're underneath the gardener at one spot.
It does look like
it's very,
yeah.
And dusty.
Yeah. So if you come down here.
So it's no longer there?
No, it's like the Living Arts Center now. So they've
This was in 2015.
That's when it closed. That's what it says Goodbye Grotto. So you can see there's like this track that went all around the gym. And I used to run that track. I used to do like 10 laps. And then all the cardio equipment was on this side.
Yeah, I worked out there once with you. You and Ursa. I remember. Yeah, and all the weights are there. And then you can kind of jump into the track whenever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. It was a cool setup.
Well,
it's a shame we don't have more places.
There's no windows. I think that it's equal. I don't know what the current. Wait, there's a thing for. Oh. You can have a bong hit. Yeah, go ahead. It's a stretch here. There's people stretching badly. They need FST. There was also a guy who used to always train in this gym. He was like an older man. He never wore underwear with his shorts, and he would always do these like an American Gigolo where like Richard Gere is like, little, upside down, and like his like literally his ball sack would just hang out. Oh, I used to hang up. Oh, this is like where I learned to do weights. Seriously, I remember that bench. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I didn't do crazy shit either. I just didn't know what I was doing, really. But I learned. What a throwback. How long is this video? Let's keep going. Yeah, everyone on the cardio equipment, on their phones. It stuck around for a while because 2015, 5 years ago. So close 5 years ago. Oh, and Wolfie threw up again.
Really?
Yeah, one last time. We had indigestion, but I think
Was it a lot?
no, it was like the tail end of it. Poor Wolfmeister. Yeah, look both ways before crossing because I might be running down. I can see Wolfie in the background. No smoking. Apparently there needs to be a specific sign. Actually, I don't know if gyms currently have a sign like that. Okay, so I think the Living Arts Center is actually much nicer. There's like natural light. So it opened on February 25th. Oh, this is way nicer.
Oh yeah, it's brand new.
Why haven't I gone here before? It looks like a Y, though. It looks like a YMCA. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so the grotto basically was kind of like where I got my start in fitness. And at the time, my best friend Laura had two older brothers, and they had started introducing, well, not they, but she actually introduced me to weightlifting and bodybuilding because she loved Arnold. She loved Rambo, all those like movies, because you had two older brothers. And so she got into bodybuilding. And so I do really have to credit her for my introduction to the whole thing and the idea of lifting heavy as I could because she was super strong. She was like an Amazon and I was not. And I was always just trying to keep up with her. And so I'd also gotten out of a bad breakup at the time. And so fitness functioned as both as an escape and a way for me to exercise control over my body. And as a result, my life. We also talked in the sauna a lot. And during the weight sessions about how we would eventually like to compete. Fame, if you remember, Fame was a big show in Winnipeg at the time. We always had MABA, but when Fame came, competing started to be, I guess, trendy at the time. And so it was a big show in the prairies, and we always planned on competing, but I didn't actually ever compete with Fame. Babe, did you ever compete with Fame?
No, actually.
No? Yeah, I never competed with Fame. Fame still exists, right? Look that up later, but I'm sure it still exists. Okay, so but I didn't really start competing in Winnipeg with Fame or any of that. I didn't actually start competing until I moved to Toronto. My late teens and early 20s in the prairies, and the reason why I left was like super hard for me emotionally. I ended up leaving Winnipeg immediately after graduating from the University of Manitoba, and was like nothing but 2 suitcases and just came out to Toronto because I couldn't be in a small town anymore. How I ended up in digital project management is a story for another time, but when I moved to Toronto, I got a job as a personal trainer in the now defunct Extreme Fitness in the heart of downtown Toronto, Yonge and Dundas. And it was here that I met my husband, Kevin, and I laid the basis of, I guess, who I was as a coach and a trainer. Because unfortunately, when you work for big box gyms, there is an incredible emphasis not on you actually being a good trainer or you knowing what you're doing. It's really just a matter about the bottom line and if you can renew people. And in the beginning, they just like throw you a whole bunch of clients and they're not really geared to like what you're good at. And at the same time, in the beginning, when you're a trainer, you don't know what you're doing anyways. Well, you do, but you don't have any specific understanding as to how to help people or people specifically. So what I mean by that is you wouldn't put together a training session for someone who's morbidly obese or has injuries or is like a certain age demographic, male or women. Like it was kind of like, here's a whole bunch of clients, do 8 of them in a day, and then make sure you renew all of them, even though we had like a shady practice of like selling you those training sessions to begin with. Anyways, looking back, I realized how naive myself and Kevin really were. Um, we didn't take any clients like on our own. It was just all, did you? No? Not till later, yeah. So we had a good crew of personal trainers, Young and Dundas. But you know what, at the time it was actually kind of fun. Maybe it's just because we were naive and didn't really know any better, but we had good crew of personal trainers, and myself and Kevin fell in love, and we started working out together and like dating, and then the rest is history from that standpoint. It's kind of sad that it's gone now. I think they're opening up a Chick-fil-A instead. Not sure. So as far as competing goes, Kevin had already competed in a fitness show. How old were you?
I started when I was
18. So he was 18. So when myself and Kevin were at Extreme together, we ended up competing in something called IDFA together, the International Drug Federation, Drug-Free Athletics. Anyways, it was a drug-free league. I did figure there was no bikini at the time. I didn't know how to compete in fitness at the time either. And so I had placed last, 16th. I don't know. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And the good news is I had some awareness. I didn't really necessarily know what I was doing, especially when it came to the whole nutrition aspect of competing, as well as supplementation and like the peak week stuff and like what you actually had to do in order to like cut down and not completely burn out in the beginning. Regardless, I didn't know what I was doing. And do not get me started on my posing, because my posing was whack. It's really bad, especially in figure. And also at the end of the day, I really just wanted to compete in fitness. And fitness as a competitive category is something that I, to this day, I think still have to explain to people what it is. I always loved Ocean Bloom and Tangy, and if you know those names, awesome. If you don't, look them up. They're awesome. So fitness back in the day used to be televised on TSN. And when I was younger, used to think that like, not women were born this way, but like, I don't know, something about it seemed so unattainable that I could never actually do something like that. But lo and behold, if you train and all that kind of stuff, yes, you can. Let me see if I can find a clip just to show what exactly it is. And Ocean Bloom actually runs, I think it's yoga and like fitness retreats out in Thailand now. So that's cool. Okay, that's not a routine. I'm gonna look up fitness pro routine IFB. I want some old school stuff. Let's look up indie. Oh, that's fun. This one always comes up. Her Arnold Classic routine. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm gonna make it full screen. Okay. Well, this isn't flag, but anyways, whatever. Who cares? So much fun. You can do it. So Arnold, right? So you have so much more fun with the routine at Arnold. So much more personality. You can use props because you can't use props at the Olympia. She's so tiny in person. Oh my gosh. I guess that will be okay. The mix of the songs is important too. Like,
The music is different.
she was insane. But like, it's not just, she knows how to perform it. You know, like sometimes it's awkward, like, or like when people do like weird dance moves in between the skills, like that's happening. That's Mindy. Kai Green. No, stop. Stop. How do I get
Cancel.
stopping the share? Getting out of
There's
here.
a cancel right in the middle.
Thank you.
There you
Can you read that now?
Wolfie, let's go.
Bye.
Wolfie, come on for a walk.
So that's fitness. That's an example of a good routine. There's some more awkward routines out there. Okay, so there were three rounds initially for fitness. You had a 1-piece, you had a 2-piece, and then you had a 2-minute fitness routine where you had to do, I think it was like 4 mandatories where you do one arm push-ups, splits all 3 ways, some sort of like inversion, so like a cartwheel or a flip. I'm missing something. Oh, you have to do a strength hold, some sort of strength hold. So you can do like a straddle, or like one where like I like to do where you like cheat a little. You have like one leg on your shoulder and you like hold the other leg up. You had to do one of those. So to do this, in order to compete in this, I knew I needed help. So I reached out to Mindy, because that's what you do. If you don't know what you're doing, you reach out to someone who obviously does, and then they help you. So I reached out to Mindy, and to this day, Mindy is quite honestly one of the like the best coach, and my first fitness mama. And I owe her and her husband Dennis a lot about teaching me how to like prep properly. And she really didn't want you on any fat burners. She like pushed you really hard. Like routine practice with her was like super fun. I do have to also mention that like I don't have gymnastics training. I have dance training, but not gymnastics. So it was a lot of like learning drills in terms of like how to do certain fitness specific moves, because fitness is not gymnastics and it is not dance. It is like its own thing. So it's owed that. So I competed in London, and then I placed second to Fiona Harris, who is now an IFBB pro. And then I competed in provincials. This was actually 10 years ago, because I did provincials for the first time in 2011. Oh my gosh. And I placed actually second to Vanda Hardeen. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. She's an Olympic silver medalist. Like when I got there, I knew, I was like, okay, like there's really no shame in losing to Vanda. Regardless, as I mentioned, zero gymnastic training. So all my power comes from, or like my strength is probably performance, dance, and like flexibility. So I did all of this fitness competing back when there was no such thing as bikini. And so when bikini did come out, it seemed like a good category for someone who was a hard gainer and was natural. So I left fitness behind and I went for bikini. I actually made it to Nationals Bikini, where I got to compete in my hometown in Winnipeg. I placed in the top 10, I believe, in like 8th or 9th, something like that. I think I'm really, really proud of the package that I brought to the stage that day. This was in 2017. That year, I started prep in late January with my first show in March in Coburg, and that was a natural show. And then I did the Fuwad show in both fitness and bikini, and I placed second in bikini and first in fitness. And then I did provincials in just bikini, and then I placed fifth in provincials and then went to nationals. So I kind of said to myself when I started prep in January that so long as I kept qualifying, I needed to make at least top 5 in a regional show to move to provincials and top 5 in provincials to move to nationals. As long as I could keep doing that, that I would keep going. And I kept going and I trained myself. And, it was actually okay. You know, like 2017, like when I stepped on stage at nationals, though, I was done. I was already done with competing. I just didn't know it yet. Because the prep wasn't hard. I had something called muscle maturity at that time. I'd been training for a long time, so I didn't have to do the crazy amount of cardio. Also, I knew my body after like prepping so much in terms of like what needed to be cut when, and that didn't have to be, you didn't have to suffer so much. And at the end of the day, like whatever works for you is completely personal. And so you can't, it's not just a matter of eating nothing but like tilapia and spinach all day and then getting as skinny as possible and standing on stage. Let's just say. There's a lot of plans out there that I think are like that. So I'm going to just do a shameless plug. Fitness routine. I think. Here I have my Supergirl routine. Where's my Tron one? Oh, I know. I'm trying to get my Tron routine. I don't know where I put it. I thought I put it onto YouTube, but I didn't. Instagram TV. I'm just gonna look at Instagram.
Is it on your Facebook?
But it's not the way Facebook has things. I can't Insta. Excellent. Found it. Now I have to just share my screen. Had to go to Instagram to find it. And they always flag everything for copyright infringement. Jumping. I was like jumping really high. So this is what I mean by like the hold here. Yeah. And then there. And there's another hold. Over. That's what we want to work on, actually, that flexibility. That one was slipping there. It's like way too high off the ground. Also, pointy toes. What about the flex team? Arm push-ups. Stop there. Yeah. Okay. That's one of my favorites. Close that. Okay. So I think that pretty much covers my competition history so far, for the most part. There's like other shows in there, like WBFF, and then when we went to Vegas to compete at like that bikini fitness show thing, there's like a lot of other stuff in the middle there that could be saved for another time to be talked about. But that pretty much covers it for now. My last show, and what I would now consider as my goodbye show, was actually with my client and friend Pastel before she moved back home to France. And it was earlier in this year, or last year in May. I did a Supergirl routine that was a bit of a mashup between Kanye West's Stronger and Britney Spears' Stronger. And I also enlisted the help of Miss Lauren Lynn to help choreograph it, because between nationals and this last show, I had rekindled my love for dance and performing. And that was an extremely fun process, because it was a matter of like taking really hardcore kind of like dance choreography and embedding that into what fitness is. And at this point, fitness no longer required the mandatories, and it was a 90-second routine. So what you chose to put in there was kind of up to you, and what you considered would show flexibility and strength, as opposed to you having to do those specific mandatory moves. But I kept them, most of them. When I went into this show, I wasn't actually intending it fully to be my last one. I was also looking at it as an opportunity to be backstage with Pastel going through the whole competition process. But by the end of the whole day, and at the end of competing, that was pretty much it. And I guess I can kind of count down the 5 things that happened during the show that made me want to say that this was it. Number 1, when I arrived, it was only at the athletes meeting that I had discovered that there was no actual 2-piece routine in fitness. It was just the 90-second fitness routine. And so it's a physique show. And while I love the routine, you should still be scored on your physique, because that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Anyways, there was no comparison round, so there's no need to pose. There was no need to really diet, I guess, depending on what your outfit looked like. So there was that. Then number 2, there was no distinction, and this has nothing to do with me being in fitness. There was no distinction between novice and true novice, and the way those categories were broken down when trying to figure out what category Pastel in terms of bikini should compete in. It was not clear what the specs were, and what qualified someone as being a novice versus being a true novice versus being an open. So I guess you could compete in all 3 theoretically. Anyways, regardless, that was awful. Then number 3, the judges judging don't, and especially fitness in particular, I'm not talking about the other categories, but especially for fitness, there is usually no one on that panel that has a real background regarding what moves are considered difficult or not. And then when you have that category now no longer has a physique portion, you have physique judges judging purely a routine. That's all. It just a little weird. Then, and also some strength moves can be cheated. And anyone who performs knows this, that you can, some things look more impressive, but they're not actually hard to do. And so I guess one way of looking at it is that if you were a smart competitor, perhaps you put in a lot of those moves and you make things look really difficult and you're struggling through it. But if it's a performance, then shouldn't you make it look anyways? That was point number 3. Now, point number 4, there was a lack of camaraderie backstage. And I guess I should expect this as it is a competition. But I am comparing this to now having been backstage at shows for dancing, like showcase pieces and with the babes. And it's so much more of a camaraderie, great vibe before you go out there and perform together as like a team. And regardless, in fitness, even though there are competition teams, you compete alone. That one first place is not your team's first place. It's your first place. So it's not the same thing. And then number 5, the final one, the whole process took freaking forever and just wasn't fun anymore. And that was the last nail in the coffin. It just wasn't fun anymore. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I was waiting there. It's like your whole day, your whole Saturday. And at the end of the day, after all the sacrifice over 12 weeks, training and like dedication and all of that, you get one day. You get a day where you wait all day. You wait all day to be summoned on stage to have someone take subpar stage shots of you. And perhaps you win. Perhaps you don't. Perhaps it's politics. Perhaps you, whatever. But regardless of what happens, the outcome of that competition, it is on to the next stage. Unless you do turn pro. And even though you turn pro, especially if you're Canadian, you're not making a living being a pro in fitness. And I'm not trying to sound like bah humbug about the whole aspect of competing because I never turned pro. But honestly, I think I would have said goodbye to the whole thing, even if I did. Competing for so many years was still just me kind of trying to fill a hole in myself that demanded the outside validation that I deserved to be in this industry and that I was good enough or what I was good enough as a trainer or whatever. When I discovered dance and I started performing with other women, I discovered why I loved fitness. It was the training and the lifting and the bodybuilding and the practice of it. I didn't like the culture of competing, and I never liked the culture of competing. And what I truly wanted out of it was to just be on stage again and all the girly stuff. Like I love the hair and the makeup and like the performance aspects and stage presence and like vibing with the audience. And that's what I wanted. And I can get that from other avenues without having to diet and compete for 12 weeks. And I mean, while I'm still open to coaching women who want to compete, you can fill out an application form in the YouTube description. I really do have to offer some words of wisdom before you make that choice, or before you decide to reach out and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to compete. I'm going to go on stage with that sparkly bikini and kill it. You have to really understand why you're doing it and your reasons for doing it and how you consider it in the grand scheme of things. Because first things, you're not going to break it in the industry by competing. It's not going to give you fame or money or fortune or any of that kind of stuff, but it will challenge you and it will push you further than you thought you could push yourself. So that's great. And you know what? When I first started, when you stepped on that stage and you killed it and you win, well, in my case, get second a lot, it feels awesome. It's a thrill, it's a rush, and that can be entirely addicting. But really it ends up being like this show, and then I'm going to do the next show and the next show after that. But like, what are you exactly trying to get out of it? And so at the end of the day, it's really for you, and it's a choice that you make and what you decide to put into it. And all that effort and love and blood and sweat and tears that you put into it, and you sacrifice of like not eating certain things that you want to eat and not going out to certain places that your friends and your family want you to go to. At the end of the day, it has to feel at least like it's worth it. And for me, when I spent that last little bit of stage time in 2019 doing that Supergirl routine, and it was finished and it was fun, but at the end of it, it really was no longer worth it. And that pretty much takes care of it. I am open to hearing your thoughts about what you think. Yay, I'm done. You're like, I can see you in the background.